Assalamu alaikum bade wono ngammo be konton wato nal konton wala anal bade manon Suleiman Jam na channel auto min kira Politiko Bantaba momo ben follow kan na YouTube channel auto isi subscribe ya share ya like.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu. Nake ba president Barrow nate konton ba kan yin soma yin tribulo safa ni wuralo la. Kontro ko la lafta ni kacha ba kan nake ba. Yin kane kan fade ande ka kan fan kan ma fon notin manko ke la bari ni manke politiko te meme fo ke intende. Lafta ni kacha dindi na rakke ba tema. Bar ni mal lan nakum wala fana ni audio mabo kana kude is audio ni mabo ba ke la file kono. President Barrow Hussein Dabo ko momen foye are kam fa fe rajabi bari mi fele audio do pele fan tulo ere tulo jin ko mo bakas keno ni audio do bije pe sa mele si tulo kasi mala fi kala meba walle bu kanyin do la me bante malo na keba ni dindin men fakata nyim police la ko wallahi karadantan ne beni la mansa atima pour mansa na ban nyim mansa ban ni nga foyle mo ko ka fe ne kana bemba danko nte mante la mansa bankande mo fana mante la mansa la bankande ntel benna politigol la ila mansa la bangbe alale bulu bare hadamaren de kilinti de mo do kam mo la saya jela man fa folo ala go londo di mo la woto pour kam mo la mansa la bang long o fanambe mo li kono le ala kam ben songala ila mansa antenta bankande bar nakke bambe ko mo men fole nya ni amiran ka tulun ko mo le foye wala amiran ka politique ko mo le foye e wa fa ala nyakas bembala nake ba ni wulita mansa sigiran kan yin police ol men ngin faga may na funde Gambia kono man ko la senia imanyin na senia Gambia kono president Barrow ni butam mansa leta dunia dawode be sorona andun ya jamme be sigirin banko ka be sigirin kilo kam mo men fagata in cold blood is too much ntele kilima kalamuta hani de men jokuma le ma kalamuta bi te men be mansa la bi be ya noto ma kalamuta de yaya wulirin ne itelegati arasi londi nyaga sojaro jekata sigi tele kono dunia be tulo be la ntele nga kare kunkuntu nga kare sopan nga kare faga nga kare kunkuntu nga kare kendo buru nga kare bula kolon kono nga mana buso ke nyin kunna nga bungi dola o kete nyala nakeba ijija ire balang ikana bo manse ala nga na nyin commission lu ni mo do na sigi nyin dulato ko nyin dindila saya ko mo fu jande ko baro la mbula nyina de ma foyte ka kede mbekku mole fo kam bur jannibe jigila fero ke ganyin ko nyala bo bar ngalo le na figol be karle ba fo ngon ko nyakas be mbala ko be mbam na figolati bare te fanne ka fo en ko ndem na figol te manke na figiti de ntel be fa sala tumo tumo ba be durim bakele ila maganya e kenya e mo sambanya wala gante boy noma nte manke jonti manke gidjan kadinti nte mo khoro dingneti mbulati no make fa sa ala nin kila le kamam be budo ma fan killing nyolo ne binte ila kenya la gante boy noma andun te buleno ma fo saya ala gantar wala ga sama jahannama dante kono fereng bar mbe ko momen fole hanna tar ninte ku killing bar pour kaneje nyaado ma gambe kono sin tora sin niotora me konde ni menke fana ko be mbaye ko fan yala fo ke nente me konde ila kula tambi nyala ga kingi kon woni ngi bala jati kon woni man kliyade nyim parali mo fulo men fata janni be jigila pero ke ganyi la ko nyin investigative dambe dinira kalamote kana e fantari malo kono lundo inti bola men kono bamba subo gandirin domo gadi ni ma nyin ko la funti saji nin ko tagata fo nyin ko ga bulo fa fo ite jigita ira komi sollondi nga na mo doje kana sigi tele kono ka fa dala duniya be tema ko baro la gambula nyinna he na ke ba fa mbekla ku dolti de andum bena audio prele fanga nyinna kumola me bak malo membe kuma kante manyillo barala kumola me bak yalo ni mo be kumala abe membo ka da kono kana wala mede ala kumo jiba be taka nyaminna kumo be laka nyoka nyame anda be evidence landi kambi go sabe mo gollel togol fokan killing abe meni togo fokan ibari muso bo kono na killing fa killing ibari muso fanan dinke bo kono ga ding me gulu nageba nyimmanke politigo ti mantare politique ma fokan jang ni politique gol mum be nala ka fo gambe dinen kala kana bla baro be te baro sagari te mantare wo fokan jande ngo kana son irake je kun fuloti mansake abe kelebul haba mansura nafatala president Barrow ni mo menga security long aga security fahamu baki mo gana lo sojarol ma wala policeol ma anin gido mo fula ga be faga a minute aga do bunko barama a borta katama mutano wo manke moti men gido londe ni man gido lo mo nginin ka menga gido lon sojarol be karale nginin ka ya gido kenya foye mo men giso ga no ka gido muta pistolet mo fula ka bun a minute ka be landi in cold blood within seconds ka do bun o mo mo mengalo he is very professional for the job o manke mo for example bi Hussein Boja men fokante mo men ne man gido fay fereng aman gido lon fereng e gido muta bulo kono hanni ga falolo di falo ka ga bun asi foala surtout mo men ngalon ka gallo within a minute ka mo do bum pam ka belela once ke burkata ni manke mo luntante gido kono de ni manke luntante gido kono de bato ngana ni na audio play fangala audio men tenga men fo nimbe politiko la linga politiko kacha barani politiko banta membe kela sinin toroti boje na fatala andite sonta bang ibanta bang ila mansa anyi silo ma wote kala kotake ntele men be kuma kam politiko lan mantare jigindi kande ntele be la kole ita kan gambe ding le bum menti ani be men kekan ani banko be tembo menta bar mansa julo la kunton tentele bulde o be alale bulla baro mansa julo la kunto mogolu fanani be kering ika hadama dinna sayalo nyamen woli man kori ko long umu alala sondirolti bar jannimbe jam falam benani odi prele fantulo gani odi me president Barrow nte manki jawti de mbote la patio kono ila kula tama nyala ke ngi haramu ke kon bar me bala jate konde ala millo kanya da ne kunun kili bilati dankunna bar jannibe jigla nyin sigiran kono pero ke ga nyilla ko nyin investigate pour ga tonya fo gambe diniye ni man tonya fo gambe diniye mbesilandi menna wala mu ni bota je ngana mo do je sigirin tele to ka fo karnin kar la ngambula nyinna na ke ba fan bekla kudol tide yo bar kudo ante jagala me te jagal fonde bar tele mansati ni mansake be sigirin mem be ka fo karala o be man ke nginti de kana hakilo bulandi nyaato ya jame jannabe jigila mo golle be je meni galon ibe do ko ya koto oto mete lota ika ya la informational ta kana ditela fe kangina nyin kule bante malo fe manyi lo mo kilin lebe do ko la han sinin fen ngele la bun kono mo ka kala muta ngina ga ke ka kala muta ni man sabina jigle te la tam mella wolle ke la ko la fundi bar ya fan ni men be do ko la ya le wolni ya be do ko la ya ga fen planite kamma wolle ka boje kana gullo be foye nake ba kana nyin ku ntambita nyin dollale di semtini te farani ben be do ko la ija baale len gullo men beje funti kanten iba kela mankin deli nyala deli nteji ini men beje wolle kala funti andu be silandi nyin ko la de amete silamarante silande de andu ngaylon ne ko nim futata nyi lumma he nake ba nyi mekela kudol tide buru mo ga sigi tele to koteke ka foko nyin dindini men fagata paralu kari nin kar la gambula nyinna nyin la ben silandi mbake de bare bara mete fansilan bara nyin nakuma kan na me bake ala me bake ma oto mo membe kere sina fam
bare ma ngai ngal konto ngal tol ngal konto so it's a Saturday, so we would just continue on the same conversation. But today, you know, Mediamo Damadara Daming is to tell you explicitly the people that frame the United Democratic Party. Because case was before the court, and we had to let the court, you know, take precedence and allow the process to go on. Now that the court is done, and of course the fabricators and the liars and the criminals intend to go to an appeal court, of course they have a right to an appeal. But based on the judgment that Justice Jada delivered, it's high time that we mention explicitly the criminals and the fabricators. Yo, wala kono molbe je min yalon ko president o badi wol lamu. Wala kono mo jama be je police lamu wolati. Abe wala kono fanang we will examine facts on their investigation. Kulla min yalon ko ala yalon kila yalon wala man taku wala mo tilimal yallati, and then the conclusion would be the government of the Gambia killed the cops. The market dalil wa dalil kan naman ke politiko tilimal yani tajidin teyati. Where we are going to start this conversation today from is Korka Barrow, Musa Kamara, Mama Jabi, Ibu Sow, Commissioner Sow, Yorosedi, and Babu Jeng, and Impate Jallo. This conversation will be focused on those names. Why would we want to focus it on those names? These are very key people in this particular matter. You know, we would have to publicly apologize to them because we felt they probably did some wrongs, when in reality they did really nothing. But a Kabirin Useno Tata, or before Useno Betala, Useno had a case. That's a blackmail case. Atata min report police oya. Mi alonko Gambia mobe sontaloko. He knows how to conduct investigation, and he has got several breakthroughs. And wale atina kabirin atofo da nyin case to draw moja mako ota Useno lonkato nyimu molete mi alonko. Abuka dadun kudo mi alonko investigation or mi alonko, you know, they are chala. But later on, we realized that it's either this person was complicit in this whole matter or decided to do otherwise. But today we will put that on the table and have a critical look at things as they happened. Kabring Mama Jabi Kate Useno Bojanna Mutakasa Mas. Mama e momin follow kumandi ala telefonot. Wala mu Korka Baroti. Korka Barrow, wala mo Adam Barrow bare musoti. Mama e Korka Barrow la follow kumandi. And then the proper investigation, now I am taking you, directing you to where to investigate. Ninga yatra koto nyani ntilo alafta walla. Go and get Mama's call logs, and then, you know, I kumandiro ke Korka Barrow la tumo minna nilungo minna nin kasa masu number mimmo. Alta ali Korka Barrow la telefono ta. Ali ajibe for Mama Jabi ya kumandile a day after this incident fama kumandi. Mama e Korka Barrow la kumandi ka fa ko nyinni mo karentang wala mutajang. Korka Barrow e Mama ni atenata dingo kumandi mimmo Musa Kamara tembe do wala kiare. Go and connect if Korka Barrow ning Mama Jabi la call nyolu o call la for Korka Barrow ni Musa Kamara mandiam, and Musa Kamara then connected to Mama Jabi, and then Musa Kamara Mimu President wala nephew was the person who called the Commissioner of Anti-Crime Momodu Sow. Now, to verify these things or to think either I'm lying or I'm telling the truth, go and get the call prints of Momodu Sow, Korka Barrow, and Musa Kamara, and Mama Jabi. You would easily know where this whole thing lies.
Wallahi.
Mama Jabi called Korka Barrow. Korka Barrow ya dingo kumandi Musa Kamara, mimu president wala nephew. Musa Kamara called the Commissioner of Anti-Crime Momodu Sow. Momodu Sow did not contact the police investigators and in police ulla mon mini alonko wolle ka koli jibe no mini alonko wolle be den tapalian intilimbaliala. He picked a couple of his boys and went with them to Casamas, and ninyi Musa Kamara to go and get Useno Goja. So DIG coming from Tole ko courts no la use wolda bota gelede ning Commissioner of Anti-Crime is one of the leading criminals in this case. That is Momodu Sow. Momodu Sow should be arrested. Korka Barrow should be arrested. Musa Kamara need to be arrested. But Musa Kamara ning Korka Barrow wolmu Adama Barrow la badi wonleti awulu ding wollo miti. So to Adama Barrow ma senea nyum koto. Mama Jabi called Korka Barrow mi alonga ka tere kanun teolong. But kabira nata kite bungo takama Korka Barrow long. But Mama's first call to the Gambia in Casamas was to Korka Barrow, and that could easily be verified from what court printouts. And Korka Barrow called her son. Kabira adingo kumandi adingo nata Momodu Sow of anti-crime command. Wanata police in Ningol mobilized and Musa Kamara, they went to Casamas and arrested Usainu Boja. But Usainu arrest to Momina, and Usainu Natana, Babu Jai. Mi ya lonko UDP nkolo ba foka nunka kela mulu buti anim pate jallo babu jenne tumiro la UDP kam UDP nkolo waral salon de nyim babu jen kabirun tumo ko damu dad lali afolo ko nyim manke mo kendo tan wala muto nyaade mo kendente babu jenne ko this person ye mim mutatenting was the guy in hoodie at the UDP court case in Banjul babu jenne ofo Allah ta kama jala wala tale babu jenne tumiro la UDP kam. And everything the police and Sankare told us was never from the investigation. It was his mindiata te tilimbalian in tajidinteaka te wonderful. And police only wonderful mindiate tolie wonderful. So Babu Jeng no more the mia long quite 2 miro deng UDP la kavoko nyim mari de nyim mutanantenting. He was the person in hoodie at that UDP court case. The reason why they actually relied on that is because Babu Jeng was at that court case ka UDP ko bute. UDP ko murunta ka fa Babu Jeng benjo le tole. Nyim Babu Jeng kin wala murunta ko ten ka ko seno bojan no wati mi alon ko he's a security to Yankuba Dabo and of course he's the guy in hoodie. So UDP ko Babu Jeng ne tumiro lato lo kan ka ko seno bojan be do ko la UDP la na UDP ko la na tele hoodie do kata kata yo sute otole. Kata tele be ka UDP ko bute nyim Babu Jeng. But one would wonder, what is Babu Jeng's interest in this case? Because Babu Jeng is one of the two that the UDP was complaining about at the time. So it is the same Babu Jeng that actually turned around because UDP was complaining about him and actually claimed that, of course, this person works for the United Democratic Party. But let's come to the investigation. Put aside Babu Jeng, Korka Barrow, Musa Kamara, and Mokotong, Minialonko, ye found a quite a long investigator to a long multi-minialonko, Yinlo multi Adamala Masakundanya, the Min Commandila, ye investigate thoroughly and, of course, bring them to accountability. But he will not do that because these are the president's family members. So president wala family mambo nyum ko kono ala tapale yanim tilimbali yanim bataro min tamata je president wala family e kulo njele because president wala family was directly involved and no abe wala kono president o bare muso korka baro mi hapo he was actually hosting mama jabi and korka min kumande min nim police wala nyim momodu so na la nyim tilimbali boy so tata Casamas wala mo nyim Musa Kamarati. But again, let's examine anti-crime and boss. Police will not in the normal policing language, all they tell you is you have the right to be silent or anything that you may say might be used against you in a court of law. There is nowhere, police interrogate. Police don't do that. If they are to effect an arrest on you, they arrest you, they expect you to be silent until you got to the point of investigation. But this is not what happened here. So this person who is the head of anti-crime in the Gambia, not only criminal criminal and he is the head of anti-crime. Gambia has people who are in our uniform, who are the masterminds of criminality and banditry in this country. And among them is this Momodu Sow. Momodu Sow balanta almo police olu atolo memo investigate almo Momodu Sow la nombalta aliete samba to actually check his call printouts because wal buka fan yako for Musa Kamara Momodu Sow call on the day of this day after this incident ka fay ko mama kate mono motana and then it only Musa tara nyindula kata nyin come out. Let Korka bring her phone and then you look at the number that called her from Casamas and then when they brought Usieno Samba Kasamba investigation Usieno Samba to the crime scene because people now talk to Usieno directly. Usieno Bonin and Casamas, in another Kasamba crime scene to her Jannon, and then took him to his house, Kirib Karakara, Befanya Kensen, and then they came out to actually lie to the nation. Everything they told us was not from the investigation. The people that organized the press conference, none of them was part of that investigation. So many at in the investigate were not part of the press conference. And everything that was told to the nation was a lie because it was not coming from the investigation. But I'm only adding that when the state had its 13 witnesses, the people who were investigating the matter, actually Moju Malaje, was an investigator into this matter. Ibu so da minor all of Enanje, and Ibu so barata min na nyuko be kono wala to format Usain Bojan's form. But the police, in their wisdom and in their manipulations, often they refer to some people as carrying on the so sign police every time I'm constantly mentioning this guy's name, there is this guy that Usain went to and reported his case to, Yorosedi. Yorosedi, now with the list before me of the personnel, paramilitary personnel that went to Casamas to get Usain Boja, Yorosedi's name is not there. What Yorosedi was not part of the team that went to Casamas to actually get Usain Boja. And this is a person that most Gambians believe that he has, a lot of credibility when it comes to breakthroughs in investigation. And don't think a police will do no. Yoro is a very credible person. I don't know why you think that he did this, he did that. But at the time, we understood that this Yoro Sedi and Usain Bojan had some issues to discuss about a problem that Usain was going through. And for Yoro to be part of that investigation, and then, for the script to be turned this way, Nata Fahamko, Yara Fang, all that we have been told, okay, Karanyol Ning Karanyol Lebenyundula, Yara Fang anti-crime Nila Molu da Malle Tata, Kazamas to get this person. Why did they not involve seasoned investigators into the matter? Why was the press conference organized by just senior police officers without the credible personnel who were involved in the investigation? Where is the investigation report? Mr. President, police will kumandia for a investigation report or dealer. It is son wala because ila dimbaya dadunda jele. So your family was involved in the in the criminal plot altogether. The president's family was directly involved in the criminal plot against the United Democratic Party. And you told me Miniake wala Babu Jenti. Babu Jenno Nyinti, the commissioner of anti-crime, is the biggest criminal in the Gambia. So if you want to ask us the question to say that J. Dabo need to tell us what he knew about the case or the
yo badin gamero han sayin kanala mdro mbe police la kumo le meka ba nga police lo fan bule gadi gamu folo bembe da ko wal sa me back ya be dulal nesan nakay wax president Barrow dunta fem kono aka wanyare idunta fem kono aka wanyare munan ke daha bandinga nyim fo mol ka fo ko bemba ka nyim fo mun nanko inte Gambia mara la koteke idun ne man Gambia mara fana Gambia man ke la dingirati ndo nakeba wuli gata e fanjare man tar kendiyare Gambia dinno al Gambia police la kumolo mi back al Gambia police la kumolo mi e kera mogolle tare korda ko ne re muta mo kemenin feng o mo kemenin feng kabre re muta je musol nin dindin be je robota Senegal Guinea Bissau Guinea Conakry Mauritanie keke ta kam back wella ko bismillah bare fonyo yalo membe je ni tebe ni nakebani alanata ita bunda la ka bele soron iya bunda la ka bele soron bar sa ngene ko mo kan jam fade ali police la kuma kan nami ba ali fanga police la kuma kan lame
Gambia police force natale jang bidum le anti crime banjulendi ni membe lorin wole mu ASP Bakari Tamba même chief of operation anti crime yang commandi jambile baydi kunu operational soto me yalon ko mo jamal arrest bari mbabula dron atani mo si kacha kay tan molla operation ni kita nyaade le Tamba
okay namol be kondon min be jibero la ni min benna moy kam ntelom ASP Bakari Tamba ntelom chief of operation anti crime unit kunun ka bo fitri sal kola kata sa foka information smuta mobulu mi on commande ka fonyo ko ye molle je dulatam ni alon ko do kordal kon korda ni ya e bebe steri wol kon ani jamabal min be kono wol mu molle mi nanke man Gambia di so wo kamala o kumo kan kaman wudu tan taraji tara fotaje ye min fo ngole taraji wolo mo jamal min taraji be mo forenal molo molti miliyaron ke man Gambia di e bol kono sénégalais bije guinéenol bije malianol fanan soto ani minu bota Ivory Coast kabring fotata je ngamin ke wolong la kuol kiskis ni nininka jamal be kono kamen fonyo wolong ibe silo min ka wolong kata nyim baguya o kamala nata je tarange ares ngaminul tarawol kono ngaminu murawol kono e taral fo mo kemening tang anin saba wo kemenin tan ni sabol kono mo nani damalo Gambian tol min tuta je be wol be molle min yanke gamanke Gambia di malti wo kamala kabringe fena jang tol bena do ko kelal wolo ngana screen mbeke nga mek so nga realize ko jamal kono musol bije musumu wang wala sumu tol kono dindimol fana bije mi yanke man fi si dol susola dol say warne wala susol bula dara ko dinin saba wol kono baby jang ebe anti crime jang yambe mutaja ning ala sonda minu mi foreignality ani minu yanke bijang be dila immigration min yalan ko wol itola do ko la ma fannala moti ka mek som yalan ke man ka Gambia dingol ka kayto la ko kiskis ani wo fannal be dila wala la way min gana ko mata je min mun tol police wala karoti wala ka je min ka tinna nyinul kanana ja kade niaje inata wandi suwo kono mole invite nanje wala mole fe nanji ko minul ke fe nan jang ka mek so ke la nyinul ko tamande pour se tamano kata bagwele nyame be solering wala la ko so for that being the case fonse la ko ron ngem also be investigate la ngalon jumal lon kadi ba wandi ko rakon from there ya so tanya de fi la nyiren wala ben tolka so wo kamala wala sorale jambi wala ben feja ala baraka ba
tamba abarka bake mbadi won tolle ngamo nyola min kuti me yalon ko wala tamtani janna kumata bake pour ka lon ko nyin ko masido mo fenete me yalon ko ani luwa man nyota kili andu mo jamal ka fo ni yolla je nga kalam dal ko kulungol tata janne men yalon ko tota balto le mol fada kulungol bota Gambia janne ko bota Gambia le itata mo malo ila ban ko la ban nyame anu nyin kan ke kuti me yalon ka be continue kan ne sanji jawe ke kan bare nyi watin ko la siya fanna la wa sabu ko Gambia police be kato be ke kan ne immigration ni bunda dol men yalon ko wala security kaje ko nyi sika kuti men danna o sabu kamala be kato bekele no mon fana dani la fana ni mo information o soto comme afo nyame information o police ko tarno dinkira beto
hey
to wade no mo information
hey dukara la mo dan dukare yo gambe dinu ngal bi la ngay demé police la PR bi digam kan ani anti crime ke la operation commanda ikera mo wolle tar dula dol to bunu kono mo kemening mo tang anin saba dindin beje musol beje muskaf ke dindin ke ba do da Senegal Mauritanie Guinée Bissau Guinée Conakry Mali lu Ivory Coast ike golle tarje ke golle ngini nga ko etel nata Gambia le bita kam ba ko welila ani ko mo med bar mbere kala be nyola ike tel gol tar bum men ko ne re muta wol bita kam ba ko welila ko gol foye ike be la ko la investigate kani par re di fengen ko la immigration la biton inata menna bela gamede men re muta wol ko ira men muta lunda ngini ko ketel nate bita kam ba ko wele ko lam tanya ba ko wele mbang ba ko wente wan bere hakilo noni ji fenkili wo koyta mako handim president Barrow ga malaiko le bu santo kele jignar ngina malaiko lu bi du ko la ala le koto ala ga bulo be fen ko na ka abele ka tinya na kebe ba kata kan bari dunta bundala ifanne be fa wanyar la nga foyne kon tel la do kunti nginti ini membe nyole te malo janin ko bi jam fala ifele bu ka tamano kay sinne be diminna do ba fale togol be diminna do ba fale ko mun nakki wa tay fan jara ni ko kebe kala man sati afrika korte min be ka fayi kan walakin na de sonno siyola bar kortele de men ka fayi ke tamira ko men opposition le ka fayi kan ini men be sigirin nake be te kan naso minne fe kono ka funu tapu ko men tabullo ini men be sigirin because be ko lefta nga baro do ko nin ko men hoke ike barale ike bara ike la min isa city isa domo isi ku ikono sikala tapu ko tabullo tay fan jara ni silo nake ba isi funti gambe te famme funti nyala yo gambe dino police la kuma kan mo inti ike ga mo keme mo tan sabale muta e retara bundole kono ko le ko bita kam ba ko wella dole bota Mali Guinée Bissau Guinée Conakry Mauritanie Sénégal kebe ta kam baku willa ko bismillah baku welemba baki wonte wa même baku nantola menaw faham la